crazy in this competition. Totally crazy, and he really wanted to win.
Kazmaier took revenge in the sack race as he cleverly tied the 200-kilo weight to his belt and became the only man to drag it the length of the grueling 50-metre course. But in a contest where fate seemed to be against the American, even his attempt to mock Jón Páll's famous laugh backfired. It was the Icelander who had the last laugh. Sigmarsson equalled Kazmaier's 3 titles with a stunning display in the Atlas stones.
He was really pleased about that because Kazmaier had been reading articles about Jón Páll, not very positive. They were not like a very, very good pals at that time, but later on they became very good friends.
The Viking had a hat-trick of wins. Kaz had the same. The big question after 1988 was which man would be the first to claim 4 World's Strongest Man crowns, and at what cost. The 1980s had been an incredibly successful decade for World's Strongest Man. As the contest travelled the globe, the rivalry between Bill Kazmaier, Jón Páll Sigmarsson and Jeff Capes inspired the 3 men to superhuman displays of strength. The heavy loads had taken their toll. Capes had retired with serious shoulder complaints, and Kazmaier had damaged hamstrings and torn pectoral muscles so badly that he had a permanent hole in his chest. Sigmarsson was also feeling the pressure. He drove his body to more and more unrealistic limits, desperate to become the first man to win 4 titles. He failed in 1989 as England's Jamie Reeves and Holland's Ab Volders beat him into 3rd place. It was the Englishman's only title, although his involvement in the competition continued as a commentator and equipment designer until 2004.
Jón Páll Sigmarsson, Odie Wilson, on your marks and get set!
In 1990, things looked bleak for Sigmarsson as he prepared for the final event. The American Odie Wilson had dominated the contest and only needed to avoid last place in the brick race to be assured of victory. His opponent needed something of a miracle. His task was to carry the 100 kilos of bricks round a 200-metre course in less than 53 seconds and hope that the American faltered.
Look at the speed of Jón Páll Sigmarsson and Halti Andersson falling on every inch of the way.
Odie looks like he's tiring really badly.
And Halti's watching that clock, every second's going past, but look at the time. He's approaching the finishing line, he's got to beat 52, and he's done it!
He's done it! Odie's got to finish under 1 minute 4 now to assure himself of the title.
It's a struggle, let's see how the time is.
Oh no!
Jón Páll's the champion!
I told you all the time! I told you! I bloody told you!
Odie Wilson would remain in many people's eyes the strongest man never to win the title.
I'm not taking anything away from Sigmarsson, but I feel within myself, that when it comes down to pure strength, I am the strongest man on this planet.
But for the champion, it was all smiles.
He was just a guy having a good time, making jokes, happy before, happy after, with the trophy, and I think he was a great man.
I'm a Viking!
Sigmarsson had achieved what many at the time thought impossible. He had overcome injury and an ever-improving field of competitors to win 4 World's Strongest Man titles. He was the most successful strongman ever.
I am the strongest! I am the Viking! Yes!
But all the victories came at the highest cost. On the 16th of January 1993, in his gym in Reykjavik, Jón Páll Sigmarsson died of a massive heart attack. A congenital heart problem had been seriously compounded by years of intense training, competition and huge calorie and supplement intakes. One of the brightest lights of the strongman world had been extinguished.
Everyone remembers where they were when they heard the news. And it was a really sad day because he was like an ambassador for Iceland. you know, good health, good condition, good looking, and you know, he had everything, the charm, everything he had, and it was all taken away, you know, just in one moment.
Jón Páll died in January, and my son was born in November of the same year, and we named him after him. And it's spelled the same way as well, the Icelandic spelling, Jón Páll. He was a great guy, he really was.
Þetta var alveg hræðilegt.
It was terrible. I was 7 months pregnant. I thought it was so sad that he would never see my daughter grow up. He loved children. He called her Shrimp because on the sonar image she looked just like a little shrimp. The whole experience was terrible.
It was expensive to get to the funeral, and there was no way I could afford it. And I went into the pub one night, the Bonnie Prince Charlie, and they were all quite down. And the manager came up to me and he handed me an envelope, and there was a ticket in it for the funeral to go to Iceland. The pub had run raffles unbeknown to me and had whip rounds and that to send me to the Iceland for the funeral, and it was so moving. It just put in perspective what people thought of him, that they would do this for him. And I managed to go back 2 years ago in November, and it was so different. No snow on the ground, and being able to see his headstone with the picture in it and that. It was very moving. He was a good guy.
Icelandic exploits in The World's Strongest Man didn't die with Jón Páll Sigmarsson, though. After winning in his first appearance in 1991 and coming second in the following 2 years to Ted van der Paar and Welshman Gary Taylor, Magnús Ver would go on to dominate the 90s much as his countrymen had the 80s.
To win the World's Strongest Man first time was something special, because I was invited as a reserve because Jón Páll got injured. Not so many people were expecting the reserve guy to come in and win.
I saw Magnús Ver as one of the greatest strongmen in history because of his talent, his practice, his ability with the events. He was flawless. He was quick, and in some races very fast and strong enough to beat the strongest guys on points.
Ver always had the reputation of a very technically correct champion, but there was one mistake that would haunt the Icelander. Worst of all, he made it in his home country.
I should have won 5 titles. I only got 4. And reason being is I should have won when it was held here in Iceland. And it came down to the last event, which was the Húsafell stone carry. And I did the mistake. I picked the stone up too high on my chest, so it was blocking my view. Couldn't see where I was going, so I decided to kind of, stop and try to, lower the stone a little bit. But instead of lowering it, I dropped it. So that costed me the title that year.
On he's losing it, the Húsafell stone has gone.
Ted van der Paar got that title, so it was the luckiest day of his life.
Ver would be without his crown for the next 2 years. After Van der Paar's tenure as champion, Welshman Gary Taylor won the title in Orange, France. A stunning location. One of many over the years in World's Strongest Man.
Most of the places we've been are kind of out of the way. You've heard of them before, but they're not on most people's holiday making plans. But when we get there and we see it and we take in the culture and the people, and then we intermix this great sport and these strong men and we introduce the people to that,